Good morning, good day to all that have managed to connect, and we are really delighted to host such a magnificent celebration in this very, I would say it is more of like more of an epic kind of a day, and we also understand that there is more of an extravaganza in the whole of the country or in the republic in general. So thank you so much for coming on board as we'll be proceeding with the processions of this day, which is the memorial lecture of none other than Tautona Motlotlegi Re Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope. There are so many heroes who are unsung because they were actually, now moreover, I would say, breeded in difficult times and they had to make difficult decisions. And for that reason, we most oftentimes have not got to understand and muchly get to the crux of the matter of why a leader has taken such economic decisions and moreover political decisions, which are in regard to the people of Bophuthatswana, which was more of a segmented Bantustan, that which you remember in the times of the apartheid regime, it was systemized in order to be segregated and as a homeland. Now, this particular leader took an initiative in making an assurance that he safeguard as he stand on the gap for his people. Now, as a chief, he did it and also became a president. So now it is a welcome from myself, Dr. B.J. Langer, and I am honored to share this. And now, what are the qualifications that honors us to do what we do now? Now, in 2017, one of the things that happened when I was led to meet with the president, but now found that he was bedridden and could not have the strength, but managed to meet with the son, Kgosi Mangope. And in our conversations that we had pertaining the historical background of Bophuthatswana as one of the sons of the soil that were honored, though being in Nguni, but we were honored to be meaning received and with such kind of reception in the very land. And most of us were raised in that land. Hence, we have the audacity, and moreover, we are also having the right to can muchly stand and moreover commemorate the life of a leader, selfless leader, that had to stand in such times. And I trust that many of our South Africans, they don't even have a clue of the man that we are talking about, and also the caliber of a man that we are also presenting. And I'm standing as one of those that were breeded. Moreover, I'm actually among thousands, if not millions of people that in this day to day, they are all actually now doing this memorial lecture in their homes. And some of you are doing it in their living rooms because now you are being remembered, and the remembrance of the leader that he was, and moreover the words that he declared even prior, the integration of democracy. And now most of us also were miscued, and I would say misled. And now the amnesia has brought us to a place where we actually now had to do what was done pre-1994. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present to you this lecture of Tautona Motlotlegi Re Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope. Allow me to present, and moreover, as we reminisce the great works that he has done, as we begin to even also connect and talk about the great legacy that he has left. And we want to say, in all the findings, a legacy stands and speaketh for itself. And we all know that history will judge now us accordingly. And if you have done it well, it will also judge you well. If you have done it not well, it will judge you harshly. And that is where we are presenting a memorial lecture of an eminent unsung, eminent moreover chief or king that stood out as a president then of the people, and now who among all the presidents or all the chiefs that were given the opportunity of independence, he stood actually out tall by moreover receiving all sorts, receiving every ethnicity that came in the very corridors and now moreover the demarcations of Bophuthatswana. Now in my introduction, I would like us to now, as we are meaning moreover engaging in the matter, and now also to understand where we are standing at. Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope was born in 1923 into an old ruling family of chiefs. And when he turned 21, he then therefore became chief of Motswedi Bahurutsi, Bomanyani tribe, and joined the Zeerust regional authority. In 1961, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Mangope became vice chairman for the Tswana Territorial Authority. And in 1968, he became chief counselor of the Executive Council and remained in this position until he was made first chief minister of Bophuthatswana in 1972. Now, hence, our legacy goes as far as 1972, not only meaning 1977 when he adhered independence. Now, after visiting to America in 1972, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope stated that he wanted social and economic equality in South Africa, an opinion he had not held prior to 1973, which to me is an underlined kind of context which I trust that South Africans will look at. An opinion he had not held prior to 1973. Now, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope resigned from Bophuthatswana National Party and became leader of the BDP in 1974. Then, therefore, in 1975, he became chief minister. The BDP took power in Bophuthatswana on the 6th December 1977, when independence was declared. Now, in the first post-independence election, the BDP won by a landslide. In October 1985, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope closed the University of Bophuthatswana, but it was then reopened. Now, in November 1985, there was a civil disturbance spread in Bophuthatswana, and in 1986, now Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope offered to arbitrate between the ANC and the South African government. The ANC replied that it wanted no dealings with Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope. Now, in the 1987 election, now Kgosi Dr. Lucas Mangope won most of the seats. In 1988, we are being remembered that Malibane Metsing, leader of the Progressive People's Party, led a coup against Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope. However, the coup was crushed within 17 hours, now, which was hardly 2 days, it was hardly a day. Now, the Triple P was banned, which was the Progressive People's Party, was banned, and now Kgosi Dr. Lucas Mangope consolidated his position through mass arrest and also a purge in government departments. In 1991, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope attended CODESA by refusing also to sign agreements that could result in the abolishing of Bophuthatswana as a sovereign state. Now, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Mangope made it clear that he favored a federal system of government. And in 1992, an agreement was reached at the Convention for a Democratic South Africa, which is namely in abbreviation CODESA, that the reincorporation of the independent and self-governing Bantustans might be the best option of these territories. However, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Mangope stated that before an agreement on reincorporation could be reached, the powers of the territory would have to be defined and agreed upon. Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope was then therefore deposed as dictator of Bophuthatswana in 1994, overthrown by members of government and the ANC just before the crucial first democratic elections, resulting in the collapse of the Bantustan and free political activity. Bophuthatswana was then therefore reincorporated into South Africa in 1994. Now, this was sourced from Shelag, meaning Gastros, meaning which was written in 1995. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just present to us a background of which we're talking of now in this very day. Now, according to the original version of the Homeland Policy, Black South Africans were to be segregated from whites. And that's the truth that we need to all look at. Relegated to a particular homeland according to their ethnicity, origins, and also consequently lose their South African citizenship. Now, that was a plan. And now the plan was actually formally, I would say, systemized in order to bring segregation and also racial segregation among the people of South Africa. And now it means that now there need to be a rise of a leadership. And now the kind of leaders that would rise in the homelands were the chiefs. And now they had no choice but to stand for its people, as they are also been given independence by or recognized only by South Africa. Now, only in the homelands will they be able to live and exercise their political rights freely. So they could only vote now in those homelands freely, not in South Africa. So now at first, millions of Black South Africans were physically relocated from white so-called South Africa to the homelands and subsequently regarded by South African law as aliens in the land of their birth. Now, you could actually now realize how the atrocity and also how the kind of degradation and the kind of regression that was put upon the people in their numbers, all ethnicities, independent, of which tribe you were from. Now, however, because of strong resistance to forced removals and the negative publicity surrounding it, the state enacted the borders of particular states, Extension Amendment Act, which was abolished in May 1990. Now, in terms of which the state simply redrew homeland boundaries in order to incorporate black spots now in South Africa into the homeland. This was the fate of Tabanchu, situated in the Orange Free State, which became part of Bophuthatswana in 1983, and Braklagte and Louisfontein, the Western Transvaal, which were joined to the homeland in 1988. Now, the result of the homeland policy, as intended, has been impoverishment and economic, financial, and military dependence on South Africa. Severe unemployment has generated an expanding pool of migrant labor to benefit white South Africa. Hence, we also begin to now realize the reason why we had, in terms of in the peripheries, we had cheap labor, because that was more of it was not the plan of Mangope, it was not the plan of any king or chief, but it was a system that was put in place in order for many those independent and many homelands to execute. So now every one of them were put on that, but it will take leadership and it will take proper governance for one to absolutely now begin to now present a different narrative in where he wants to take his government. Now in this manner, this is it. Now, as we said, that now local level administration is run by tribal authorities who do not represent their constituencies and who have unrestricted power to control their subjects. Now, in the short history of independence, authorities in the homelands have shown absolute intolerance of opposition. Now, in Bophuthatswana, for example, they have been supported by the local police, the rest of the security establishment, and including vigilante groups were there, yes, in their efforts to suppress any hint of discontent against the prevailing political and economic condition in the very homeland. Now, except for South Africa, no other country recognized the homelands as independent states. Now, only South Africa has diplomatic relationships with the homelands. However, in deciding to reward South Africa for the abolishing of apartheid laws, both the European community and the United States lifted their sanctions, despite the fact that the homeland system, which lies at the heart of apartheid, remains intact. Now, how he built Bophuthatswana as the income president. When Bophuthatswana started, it was a self-governing homeland, but now not independent. Therefore, every decision had to be approved by Pretoria, the so-called Pretoria. The homeland was very rural and dry, and there was nothing in terms of infrastructure. So, Chief Minister, as he was called then, Dr. Manyane Mangope, had a lot of challenges. There were no industries. There was no commercial farming, no tarred roads. And also, even in terms of education, the general population was illiterate. He had to establish commercial farming, build industries, but this required skilled personnel, of which there was none. Now, the only income that came in the form of South African government grant was of 20,000 rand annually. And his first priority was education, because he wanted to invite industrialists to invest in Bophuthatswana, and he also reckoned now it was easier to train a literate worker than an illiterate one. Now, regarding industrialization, the South African government was imposing difficult conditions on would-be foreign investors in Bophuthatswana, like being allowed only short-term leases on land. But now Kgosi, Dr. Manyane Mangope, wanted them to own the land on which factories were built as an incentive to stay long-term. Now, the president then had a vision, as a visionary leader, to actually now keep it for a long term. Now, other restrictions were on education. Foreign teachers could not be employed permanently only on temporary basis. This discouraged a lot of American, British teachers from coming to Bophuthatswana. Now, there was also pressure from Pretoria to use Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. Mangope, as then the president, was against this, because then he wouldn't be able to use foreign teachers. He wanted foreign teachers because to teach maths and science, students with maths and science could be trained to work in what proposed industries and also become doctors and etc. Now, to remove all restrictions once and for all, he opted for independence in 1977. Now, He could build industries in places like Garankuwa, Zone 15 Babelechi, and also places like Temba, Hammanskraal, Tabanchu, near Bloemfontein, and other industrialists needed incentives and employ foreign teachers and also unhindered. He could build agricultural colleges and establish an agricultural bank to help emerging farmers. He also built a university because he had observed that closers and vendors were more educated due to proximity to universities. He invited mining companies to survey Bophuthatswana and build mines around particularly Rustenburg. He used the mineral rights royalties to build infrastructure, pay teachers and the police, and he built the Mamatu International School affiliated with Cambridge. Now, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope also realized there was a great opportunity in tourism and gambling. And as gambling was illegal in South Africa at that time, together with his co-partner Saul Kessner, he established Sun International Bophuthatswana. Now, at a 49.51% shareholding agreement in favor of Saul Kessner as a foreigner. Now, remember, he did it so they can have a long stay in his territory. Now, under this brand, Sun City, Kabani's son, Morula's son, the Carousel, and others were built. Pilanesberg National Park was also established around Sun City to encourage tourism. Now, the endeavor was a resounding success, ranking in the money from the onset. Now, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope knew the homeland system was temporary, but his main concern was the black man's inferiority complex. Now, his belief was that unless people were given the chance to run and oversee their own affairs successfully, they will never feel equal. Now, in regard to governance, for every leader must have leadership skilling. But moreover, even though it is political or economical, but there need to be a kind of an execution of a level of governance that will bring forth service delivery to the people, and also equally so accountability. Now, his style of governance, yes, one could say was authoritative, and now with an equal measure of inspiration. He believed that there could never be any progress amidst chaos. He also went around the homelands giving rousing speeches to inspire confidence in the people. The speeches were always uplifting. Now, the likes of Hendrik Verwoerd, when inventing apartheid, now he put it bluntly and he said, I open quote, it won't last forever. It's not meant to last forever, but to give the Afrikaner an advantage and a head start. So now you would realize there, as the quote is still opened, that Hendrik Verwoerd, they had a plan, and their plan was to give an advantage to the Afrikaner. Now he stood and he labored for his people. Now, what is wrong when the then Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Mangope, stands on the gap for his people, the Botswana, and also he went extensively and stood for the Ngonis. Now, what was wrong? As for me, in terms of a leader, that he was precisely, moreover, I would say, directive in what he wanted to achieve and who he is actually now stands for. Now, same as Hendrik Verwoerd. Now, we'll open up to the second paragraph. Now, open quote, he said, but also to give the Afrikaner an advantage and a head start. So do not teach the black child maths and science, he said. His job is to serve the white man. I paraphrase. Now, you see, these are the words from Hendrik Verwoerd. They are not words from the then Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope. Now, so nothing was given to Kgosi Tautona Motlotlegi Re Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope Nothing was given to him on a silver platter by an apartheid government, as is commonly claimed by detractors. Now we need to be careful on what commentators and glossators are presenting before us. We need to be careful and also examine what also analysts are analyzing. Some of them it is out of hatred, some of them lack of knowledge, some of them it is the joy that they thought they have come into the rainbow nation where everything will be rosy and colorful, and which is not the case. Now, if anything, he was the real anti-apartheid hero. Yes, in Lucas, meaning Manyane Mangope, people of Southern Africa were blessed with a great leader. Indeed, I declare. Now, let's look at the background, the reason why he did all this, beautiful, and moreover, the structure, that he actually now built the infrastructure. Now, let's look at the education of the president. In 1946, after more than a decade in schools run by the order, now Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope obtained a senior certificate equivalent to an American high school diploma from St. Peter's School in Rosettenville, and then a junior teaching diploma at the diocesan teachers training college near Petersburg, which is now called Limpopo. Now, between 1947 and 1949, he worked in the Department of Native Affairs. But in 1951, he returned to school, attending Bethel College near Lichtenberg in order to obtain his higher primary teacher's diploma. And having taught primary school in the 1940s, during most of the 1950s, he taught in the secondary school in Motswedi, serving for several years as its principal, and in other several schools in Mahikeng, Potchefstroom, and also Krugersdorp. By this time, now Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope had enrolled for his BA degree, which he could not complete because of his father's death in 1959. Thus, for calling for his immediate installation as chief of as chief of the Motswedi Bahuruchi Bomanyane tribe, and joined the Ziras Regional Authority as stipulated. With him becoming more heavily involved in administration and politics, he was appointed to the Bantu Education Advisory Board and the Advisory Council of the University of the North, which was then called TEFLUOP. When the Tswana Territorial Authority was formed in 1961, he therefore became vice chairman, now advancing to chairman in 1968 and chief minister in 1972 as stipulated, with the evolution of his homeland. Now, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope has a significant advantage in his dealings with the Republic that is shared by few of other homelands, meaning executives. As a school teacher, now Kgosi Manyane Mangope specialized in the teaching of Afrikaans, and I think that was his baton and moreover his standing point. You need to have something to stand on and to make sure that people can hear you either way. Whence we know that in the apartheid regime, the only language that was heard was Afrikaans. So this was a wise man. Now, his pupils, 1 year even proving more proficient than all others in the Transvaal examination. 1959, he was awarded the Professor Burning Trophy when his class obtained the best results in Afrikaans among all competing schools in South Africa. In 1980, he was awarded an honorary doctorate in law, LLD, by the University of Bophuthatswana, which is now called the NMUW, now University of the Northwest, now which is known by the University of the Northwest as its first ever graduation ceremony. Now, I want to present to us the skew articles by so-called journalists and analysts and glosators and commentators that came out, and they articled, and some of the writings brought confusion. Some of them made the Botswana to moreover dismantle their own chief, king, president. They dismantled the only man who stood for them. Like the Afrikaner till to date, they have never dismantled their forefathers. But the Botswana did dismantle because of a political advancement, and some of them because of what an integration of democracy. And now here is what was said. I mean, the likes of Doggy, I mean, Oaks, who wrote on the Star, I mean, in January 30, and then now also you would even heard of now the Justice Malala and most of them, they started writing and moreover speaking things pertaining this, and now they narrated his story in a very negative and illicit way. But now we put the record straight in order to make sure that the people of South Africa understand the kind of leader that we heard. Now, these are skew articles by the so-called journalists, analysts, glossators, and commentators. Now, as we look at also the life and the times of Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope, we cannot actually now allow all of those analysts and glossators and commentators go unchallenged. Now, the offering is so one-sided in however they present their story. So cheap, so brutal. It is, moreover, gratuitously and malicious that one wonders how it gets to be the center spread of a respected national paper, or also in regard to a national figure of this magnitude. Now, how does a mere journalist presume, for example, to know and interpret the political nuances of our country better than the citizens and the rulers of our time? Now, how dare does also this political analysts and also glossators and commentators claim to be better qualified than the leaders of, for example, ANC and the other leaders, the citizens of these provinces, and in assessing the contribution of Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope in our lives? Because even in his death, we have seen leaders coming forward. Now, leaders came from the political spectrum, leaders in the economic spectrum, leaders in the government. They came on board in order to pay their respect to what the former president has actually done or contributed to South Africa. Now, we all know that apartheid was a bad chapter in our lives. All of us bear its ugly scars individually and corporately. Now, the world even declared it as a heinous crime against humanity. Now, CODESA, which was the convention of that democratic South Africa, and which we know it's questionable to date, the new South Africa ushered in a new dispensation of forgiveness and tolerance. Now, the leader of the apartheid regime then, F.W. de Klerk, won a Nobel Peace Prize alongside Nelson Mandela. You can tell, alongside Nelson Mandela, and also Afrikaner nationalists, the protagonists of the homeland system, sit in our parliament to this day. People who have killed our parents, people who have killed our uncles, our mothers, people who have tortured our grandmothers, people who have done it to a point of raping even our key mothers who were leaders in our country. And to this far, we have went through the processes of reparation and also as a dispensation of forgiveness and tolerance. But now we can't tolerate and forgive our own. Now, there it goes, therefore, that now clearly if F.W. de Klerk has won a Nobel Peace Prize, now how about this particular leader we are all actually engaging about in this morning? Now, homeland leaders such as Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, General Bantu Holomisa are latter-day heroes and bask in the glory of our public life. The same accommodating spirit was shown to Stella Sinau and also Opakozo and others. Now, it is quite obvious that only Kgosi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope is being singled out for these venomous attacks by the media and other political opportunists. Now, is this man worse than even the nationalists who have served in our cabinet? Is he worse than Robert Mugabe, or who stand accused of killing thousands of his fellow countrymen, yet remain a hero to his people and Africans at large? Now, the likes of Popo Mulefe was the first, and Supra Mahoma Pinu, the current admin ANC, who was then the ANC Premier of Northwest, they both paid glowing tributes to Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope. Yet they are dismissed as what? Apologies for Mangope. Surely as successors to Mangope, they are best qualified to pass judgment on the man. They know exactly what he has done, the contribution that is brought, and they actually now, because of being premiers of those, of the province. Now the government of Botswana, now implicable opponents of apartheid South Africa, sent no less a personage than their vice president to pay a glowing tribute to Mangope. Now, are they also misguided? So hundreds of dignitaries, including senior judges, professors, and other senior public figures, attended the funeral. And now, where the 35,000 mourners who descended on Mutsweni for the funeral, which we know that there were no stooges or political non-entities. Now, we are told that everything he built, infrastructure, and even his television station came courtesy of the National Party. But how low can this man sink with that logic? Even the air we breathed in Bob came courtesy of the National Party. That's why they say, must we now abandon all the prestigious government building, national parks, the Sun City Hotel complex, now also state-of-the-art studios, airports, industrial parks, or should we just remove the name of Mangope? Now implicit in this type of reporting is that total disrespect for the citizens of the homeland areas. Now the assumption that they are all dumb country folks who were completely powerless in the face of a dictator such as Mangope, and Mangope is accused of failing to provide desperately needed jobs. Well, the last time I checked, unemployment was at its highest ever in the New South Africa, so it's not a Mangope thing. So now we know that most and often all people got to work in those industrial peripheries, and that is the fact. And I'm saying it's the fact because my father worked there. It's a fact because we were raised from those industrial peripheries, though it was cheap labor. However, you can actually now announce it. Remember, there was a system in place. The homelands could not operate in their own powers. Neither they could operate in their own and muchly make their decisions. But this particular president, therefore, made his own decisions accordingly. And that also needs to be respected and moreover presented before the people in accordance. So now let's come to this. Now another meaning lie which we all should know is that Bob, they say it was a one-party state. That was a lie. The fact that opposition is weak and dwindling and dwindlish does not make the country a one-party state. For example, today the African National Congress has ruled for actually now more than it is the 28th year this year. Now, that does it mean they are actually now dictators? Yes, if that's the case, it means they are dictators because they've actually ruled more than the years that Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Mangope, the then former president of Botswana, ruled. He ruled for 17 years. They are ruling now for 28 years. So if the years will tell you that this party is a dictator or more authoritative, meaning more of like they are authoritarian, and that is that which we need to actually investigate so that we know that now as we are talking about them being dictators, we need to be actually now directive of the matter and make sure that we put it right so that we don't destroy the other leader and permit the others to actually progress. Now this is important. Now, in fact, if you look at this now, Rocky Malibani Metsing's party was very strong in the late 1980s. Yes, we agree. Could convincingly have won the government at least through court actions and so forth, had it not being for his ill-conceived attempted coup. Now, obviously, Kgosi Dr. Lucas Mangope is hated by the so-called purists because through sheer force of his brilliance and courage, he is the one homeland leader who almost proved the hated homeland system workable by the many actually places he brought to the region. Now, Bophuthatswana became playground for the rich, famous stars such as Michael Jackson, Lucia, and also and the others who were regulars. Now, Bophuthatswana Recording Studios attracted the cream of the international artists. Now, his television, radio stations shocked even the apartheid regime by producing world-class programs unheard of its rest of South Africa. A whole generation of broadcasters, including Bob Mabena, Nomathemba, or Nothemba Matumo, and also were raised by Bob Radio and TV. Concepts and formats employed by Bob Radio and TV. The concept and formats employed by radio stations such as Metro were copied directly from Bob Radio and also the station with a mind of its own. Ladies and gentlemen, just a quick interval, resuming in just 2 minutes. thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate to proceed with our proceedings. Um, just to make sure that we come to the conclusion of memorial lecture of our impeccable, I would say, distinguished leader of our time, that is unsung, that we heard, and his works are speaking over a great deal of, I would say, know, language. When we look at the things that he has done and what he has actually given in country. Now, in closure, there's we move. I would like to present such to all of us and make make an assurance, make an assurance that we come to a place where people understand, of all the things that we saw happening in Bophuthatswana, because that it would muchly narrate a better story. Because the story is one-sided, then we might not be in a position uh, story or tell that. Now, I would like us to take it forth where we have actually left it there, just in quick something very important there, uh, which I believe that in who most of the people, they follow hearsays, and you find that these hearsays are not even that needs to be told in full, pertaining an individual who selflessly took it up in such times, independent of anything. So, but making assurance that he built a government, meaning in a very homeland that was impeccable, that was actually meaning for meaning Bandustan or homelands in his time, and that is what we should embrace. Today we see the Zulu kingdom, people embracing as such. So it is important that we embrace this particular king. The reason being of it, that he actually did it and he surpassed almost all of those four, all of the homelands that were actually given independence, and he did it exceptionally. I would take it forward to say, when you look at what is actually now have happened, even his avowed the critics that the that were made by the analysts, that were made by the commentators, the likes of Oaks and others are forced to understand Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope brought many positive stories or positive developments to his people, and he did it. And none even can be able to stand against that, and moreover nullify the facts, and moreover to matter that the then president of Bophuthatswana has actually done a great work, and to this day we are seated here. We're looking at, and we are reminiscing, because we're looking at, especially if you were meaning moreover would say you were born, or if you were brought to the meaning to the land of Bophuthatswana, and you were part and you know how he led. And when you look at what is happening today, you will realize the importance of Kgosi Manyane Mangope, because then you will understand now that this man was a true leader. And when you match him with what we have today, it's a disgrace. But when you look at what he has done, even though he's not celebrated as he's supposed to be, then you would actually understand the kind of leader we heard. Now, now, his was the only homeland to build its own fully fledged university, youth development centers, modern high schools. He did it. Of course, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope had many faults, yes, of his own. I mean, his son Kwena candidly admitted this at the funeral. We know that this is public knowledge, but then that only proves he was human after all. I do believe that, especially on his death, Kosi Mangope deserves a modicum of what? Of fairness, which is true. We have given many such, and himself also needed to be given such. Now, let me close by reminiscing on the good old days and what Kgosi, let me call him by his call, Tautona, Motlotlegi, Re, Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope, meaning his milestones in 70 years, that which needed to be celebrated. Now, you would see there he built university, he built colleges of educations, many of them, 8 plus in the whole province, and the Mabatu Convention Center, civic centers, and he built stadiums. I mean, we know Kiminosi, we know Odi, we know many of those stadiums, shopping malls, and Isa, he built primary schools, he built P&H schools. He also built Connie and Munchen Prime P School, and he built Mabatu High School, Salt Playeki P&H, and he built also, I mean, in technical, in high schools, schools of teachers' residence, nurses training colleges, hospitals, clinics, Babelege BMW factory and Babelege as in general, agri chicks, and also government offices, legislature, parliament, Bob TV, Mabato Studios, Bob TV flats, radio administrations, university staff flats, university student residence, roads and bridges. Some of the roads are still intact even to date. And now the current government can't even match them. He also built Mabana Foundation. He also built Mabana Multipurpose, and he built them, three of them, and so forth. Mova housing across towns. The housing across towns, I would like to sleep a little bit there for a sec. That he built 5 room houses, 4 room houses, which are still intact today, which housed millions of people in Bophuthatswana. And I want to address this, that he is the only one who actually has actually dealt with the matter of RDP, which is the reconstructive meaning development program, which is an amiss, which we can see today has failed, and to a matchbox house. And now let me say this, which was not necessarily a house. An RDP was not a house, but an RDP was a meaning a program for reconstruction of the economics of the people of the Republic of South Africa. And this is the man that did it well, even in the midst of apartheid regime, systems. He did it well. He built people houses. To date, I can tell you, I stayed in one of those houses. I know what I'm talking about. I am a minimum over a product of what he has done in terms of infrastructure, and he did it well. And he actually now, meaning did it, meaning greatly. To date, there is no government, neither there is no administration that has come on board and did what he has done. And now I think we need to actually now make peace with that one. Government housing, he did that with all the government officials. They were treated, I mean, great. Whether you are foreigners, whether you are Zulu, whether you are vendor, whether you are Tsonga, they were all treated accordingly as long as education becomes the number one priority in that very meaning country. So it's very much important that now he had a vision, because now the problem is we have leaders in the now that has no vision, and that's a problem. If leaders don't have vision, then we all are going to at all times follow a European or the visions from the West will be led by other people, but an African dream will not be emergent. That's the problem we have with the leaders of today. So this is the kind of leader that had a vision and did what he could. And he did residential flats. I mean, we had flats in the midst of the locations. Flats were not only in the city, the suburb, or urban, but they were also in locations. And he did so. And now that brought something in the very that brought in a kind of housing that is for the young professionals to go in and stay there in a flat. Those who have come from far meaning provinces and countries, they came on board and they stayed on those flats. Now, he also did suburbans. We've got Riviera Park, the Unit 1s to Unit 15s. We get all the Unit A, B, the Unit C and Ds, and all the units were suburbs in the location. So he did build, meaning good households, not just 5-room houses, but also houses which today in the cost are cost even greatly, but he built them in the very locations, not to segment, not to even segregate or to divide the people, but to give the people of the middle class also an opportunity to stay in location. But today, many people run to town. They can't stay in the location because of what the current government has done to the infrastructure. He built Sun City, he built Mabatu, he built Tabanchu, Dawum, Kabanisan. He built all those international meaning sons, which are trusts that they were moreover economic hubs, and where people were receiving meaning jobs, where people were muchly meaning also employed and deployed. And for such, we can absolutely commemorate what this man, meaning Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope, has done, and in reminiscing the good old days and the good works that he has done. He built libraries because he believed in education. He said, now, the only time that we can have industries and also factories, we need and become a manufacturing country, we need to educate and much impart knowledge and now skill our people, upskill them and reskill them. And that can only be done through education or training. And he did that. Libraries were there built, and he built also, I would say, transport economy, your buses. And then he did it well, your BTH, I mean, about Kaba Transport Hold. We remember that BTH and all of those that were there, also luxury bus, Monocoque, and now many other that we had there that actually operated in Moputitswan. And now, greatly, this man, now today we are fighting on whether we have, I mean, we can't even handle one airport, one airport, one SA, one airport. We can't, handle only one airport. We are struggling to handle international OR Tambo Airport. We are struggling. The SAA is also not making it. Hence, they want to push an agenda of privatization. Now, in this manner, that will also show you he built two airports in the very country, two airports that were managed very well even to date. And now that tells you that this president had a vision. Now, he also built post offices, which today, now, I mean, we understand where we come from, the season of telegram and post offices. But now, in today, you can actually tell that now we are leaders that are here to take away what belongs to the people. I mean, even post offices are closed today by the administration because of lack of leadership and lack of governance. And now, in that way, post offices that were built then are now closed by the current government and administrator. Parastatals, now your Sebo, Agrico, BNDC, all Consumer Council, Agri Bank, and cooperatives of Lesedi, yeah, Big Investment, Bob Transport Holdings, Bob Housing Corporations. They were built for the people, and to date, they actually now also were hubs where people will be able to get their startup monies and money to start their businesses, whether in farming, whether in any other industry. So that is particularly as far as he's done. Now, let me take it further. He built banks. I mean, we know. I mean, we remember the deposit slip of the banks in Buputatswana were written in Setswana. I mean, that's how creative the man is, so that all people can read their own language, read their own language at banks, not the government, not now. Yes, but now he did it in Setswana, and deposit slip had those meaning writings. Now, there was what we call a language board, which we know that also to actually now inclusively meaning also cater everybody. We had Bob Saul there. I mean, there was sports. Now, everybody, I've learned table tennis in Botswana, and people were playing tennis, which today it is so called and named a rich kind of a sport, and which is not. And now we then play table tennis and tennis and other. Why? Because of a visionary leader that the president of the then Botswana is and was. Now, there were Bob Chamber of Commerce and factories in Mokwasi, Garankuwa, Belegi. I mean, he also built prisons, Rekron, Mokwasi, and Garankuwa. He built those prisons for law and order. Now, also, I mean, the botanical gardens, border posts were built even between meaning Ziras and Botswana. And now he brought order. Today, in that instance, we need to understand he brought order. He received foreigners who came for education, not just came in for a lavish lifestyle, not knowing how they get the money, not just receiving or having a foreign policy that doesn't protect its own people, or even also protect foreign nationals. He protected everybody, foreign nationals and nationals, and made it sure that there is a policy that speaks on that. When you are a foreign national coming into the land, you are coming for education to add and to become part of the economy, and that which is what visionary leadership. Now, also, Bob military army was therefore also been brought into book, and villages, and we know how police were brutal as they were called, but there was this kind of order now which I can tell, hence crime in Muputatswana was diminished to that level, so that we can suppress crime and moreover promote education, and because freedom did not come only with the good stuff, it also brought the negative, because it killed the policies that worked then for the people and introduced things that do not work, that gave hence the people of South Africa are called lazy and so forth. No, the people of South Africa are workaholics. They work and I mean tirelessly. They did that to actually now gain freedom. Now, how can they be called lazy? They cannot be called lazy. These are the people that worked among Africans all over the continent. They stood and they fought together with Africans, yes, but they managed to win their battle to this far. So now, in that way, that tells you that now the people of South Africa are actually, they need to be conscientized of who they are. And now also, this man, there were police training academy. I remember we used to go there and do carry bags. Now, when the police go there and train, and on the last day of their pass out, will go there for the pass out and carry the bags and get some bit of cash. Let me tell you, that was an economy. It happened, it doesn't happen anymore. It was killed by the current administrator and the current government. And then he brought the intelligence Kubeka, and he brought the public tennis courts, as I said. I mean, there was a singing chorals, and we were singing at schools, Maba to chorals, Mafike, and we were singing at schools and going for competitions. And every child, remember, with that self kind of a black tie, I mean, all of us were like more excited to take on into those, I mean, competitions per school, per region, and that also brought joy in that very, I mean, community. Then he also, meaning also, meaning had clean water. Can you imagine? We drank clean water in Bophuthatswana than in South Africa. Today in Hammanskraal, there is no water. The water is dirtified, filified by meaning sewage, meaning flow, and also waters are meaning dark. You know, I mean, we can all tell how sickening the waters of Hammanskraal have been, and the people have been toying for such a time, and until such a time, and they haven't actually got a resolution. But in the times of Kgosi, Dr. Lucas Mangope, people had clean water. People had water to drink. They drank clean water. We had tar roads, and we had all the roads that you can name. And there were beautiful roads that were built in our townships. And now, until today, I don't know where they get this cheap, meaning tar they are using. I don't know where they get it. But this man used the right material in order to build, I mean, his smart cities or smart locations. And we had reliable electricity. There was no stop. Biko did a great job until today. There were no blackouts. There were no what do you call it? There were no load shedding. We had electricity. Unfortunately, today we don't, and we are having a manipulation on energy done by politicians to date, and that is the problem that we're having. Now we have the electricity. We have no VAT. Can you imagine? No 15%, nothing. No 14%, no 15%, nothing. Buying a suite, buying shoes, buying dresses. You pay tax. You pay it at work. You pay. We are double taxed by this company. I mean, by this company called South Africa. We are being taxed by this private company called the Republic of South Africa, and we are taxed by politicians. There was no VAT, and we lived life, and the government was able to cater its people even more. People got more from the government than they are getting today. And then, therefore, we had Bob Med. I mean, he dealt well with the Department of Health and the sector of health, and the health departments worked very well. There were hospitals, and people were catered I mean, for all over the country. And now, in closure, there was what we call a Bob recording studio, which today all and most of these radio personalities who are speaking negative of this man, most of them got their skilling from this studios. And now to close it, this is a studio that produced the likes of the late Bob Mabena, may his soul rest in peace, and most of them and others. And they were bred from that kind of infrastructure until today. I mean, the likes of the Ultra FM and that which we have, 702, and whosoever that we might have, they are actually now copycatting on what this brilliant and visionary leader, President Kgosi Motlotlegi Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope, has actually now meaning presented for the people of South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, it can only take a man to reach out to thus far. 20% plus, if not the whole country, was impacted by the work of this particular caliber of a mini former president. Now, I here stand to declare, and then moreover to commemorate, meaning in this memorial lecture, the works done, which cannot be forgotten by its people, of the works of Kgosi Motlotlegi Tautona Re Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope. And may his soul rest in peace. And the other greatest thing that he has done, he revered the Creator, the God Almighty. And that is one thing that people were fighting against, that they said he is actually now pushing the agenda of Christianity for the people to follow him in order to reign forevermore. But I can tell you, any king that reveres Almighty, independent of the affiliation of faith, that kind of a king or president will reign forever. And that is the truth. And the truth must be spoken. And this is the kind of leader that stood out and taught everybody, independent of their affiliation, of whether of faith, in religion. He came out, everybody came together, whether Christians, Muslims, any other. They came together and he did what? At school, they were taught oneness, and we were all taught in singleness of hearts and one vision. And now we stood out, no matter where you were coming from. We then, therefore, embraced, meaning our country then. And now, this is what the new South Africa needed, which they don't have. Now, I stand to close in saying, in commemoration of a great leader, may his soul rest in peace, but moreover, may his works, meaning eternally, be meaning also raised in our country. And God bless you, and God bless all the Northwesters, every Northwesterners that are in this country, in Mahikeng, going as far as Pankop, going as far as Mututlong, going as far as Tabanchu, which was part, all the units that he, Kgosi, Mototlehi, Dr. Lucas Manyane Mangope, overseed. May you all be, meaning, I would say, awakened for this truth, and may you all stand for the truth going forward in this new dispensation. Hallelujah. And God bless South Africa. God bless you.